Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. Hi, I'm David Manti with Cannabis Equipment News, and with me today is Bryan Wilson, co-founder and president of Environmental Living Industries. Thank you very much for joining me today, Bryan.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me.
So I'd like to get started by just telling us a little bit about yourself. How did you find yourself in the industry?
Well, it's a bit of a lengthy story. Originally started out, I have no prior ventures into anything like this ever before. Originally started out as an infantryman in the United States Army, 75th Ranger Regiment. Got out of there, did some contracting, became a paramedic, firefighter for a little bit, did that for a while before I got back into contracting. And along the way, things were kind of happening in the background of my life that kind of steered us towards the direction that we're going now with E.L.I. Along the way, I was with my wife, and she, probably about a couple years after we got married, she started getting really ill. And we didn't really have a cause. We started going through physicians one after another, trying to figure out what was happening. And she was developing, several autoimmune disorders. It was what they ended up being Hashimoto's, endometriosis, interstitial cystitis. And then she started developing at the tail end, like a lot of food allergies. Just it seemed like every month or every other month there was just one more thing that she was allergic to that she just couldn't come in contact with, and this was just baffling us. This was while I was working as a paramedic and a firefighter at the time. She was working as a pediatric emergency nurse. She ended up having to stop being a pediatric emergency nurse because she just with all the health issues that she was having, along with the fatigue, she probably had, if she was awake longer than 4 or 5 hours, she was just exhausted. She was just sleeping all the time, like 15, 16 hours a day, and just nothing done about it. A little bit later, as we were going, probably, I think the sum total ended up being like 30 some odd physicians that we ended up visiting with no real confirmed diagnosis of what was causing this. But she got pregnant, and we the pregnancy made it all the way to 9 months. Everything seemed to be okay, and then when she went into labor, our son, during labor he died. He was stillborn at full term. No known cause, just like it was with her illness. There was we had nothing pointing to why this had happened. And his name was E.L.I, which is where we get our company name from. A couple months after that, we came across a doctor who did a test on her for mold, to check her for a mold illness, and there it was. After this was probably 8 years now of illness, we finally had a cause as to what was causing this breakdown in her autoimmune resistance, and ultimately what we believe caused E.L.I.'s death. So, and it because then that we had a toxic mold in our house that had gotten into her and saturated so much that it actually, from what I understand, ended up in her blood. An orchotoxin and a gliotoxin infection with the mold. It was, I believe, two of the two most predominant molds, along with several other infections that she had. And this absolutely crushed us. And at this point, I was actually contracting overseas in Israel at the time. And I came home to be with her. And from then on, I really started looking for the exit to that job. I was like, okay, I need to do something here in the States. This is not something that is sustainable, trying to, help my wife through this and to start a family while you're, gone 9 months out of the year. So I began looking into different self-sustainability, different entrepreneurial endeavors that would that would go along with trying to get my family into a more healthy environment. We had to sell our house. We had to sell all of our furniture, our clothes, everything, absolutely everything. We had to start over from square one. We sold a nice little house that we had, and all the equity that we had get built up into it. And we bought just this tiny little single wide trailer to live in for a little while. We were able to just pay the single wide off. So it was, while I was looking for a job and the next thing to do, it just seemed like the right thing to have, no mortgage or anything. So, but it was tiny little cramped space. It was like 700 square feet. It was terrible. We ended up looking into, after we got her out into the home, we started looking into other things that could help her heal. And one of the things that would help somebody with a mold infection heal is good, clean food. So I started looking into starting up a business using, growing, organic, farm to table type stuff. And along the way, I came across hemp. And my partner, Thomas Hoffman, who is co-founder with me with E.L.I, he got me into it. And originally we were actually going to do CBD processing because that's just the direction that the entire market was going at the time. But once he turned me on to hemp and he told me what it does, I began looking at the market and seeing just the direction that everybody was going. And everybody was talking about all the uses for hemp. It's got 25,000 different uses. It's the Renaissance plant. It does everything. And I was kind of perplexed by this because it looked like everybody was kind of going one direction with it. And it seemed very confusing to me. So I started looking at all the other uses of hemp that everybody was not going in. So just watching the herd go that direction, I just kind of like did a pregnant pause and kind of just looked in this direction, see, hey, can we do something over here? And I looked into fiber, and I looked into all the versatility of that product. And I came across hempcrete at that point. And hempcrete is the one that really got my attention the most and really spurred why we started going in this direction, because hempcrete is a material that you can build an entire house out of, mold-free, fireproof, pest resistant, vapor permeable, all these things. And that really was the catalyst to really my decision. It was kind of like the gunshot for the start of the race for me. It was like, okay, this is the direction that we need to go. This is so perfectly aligned with what I need right now. And it just seems like I was being pushed and steered to kind of go in this direction. I am a very Bible believing Christian, and it seemed to me that God had put this in my life, and He was just really pushing me to pursue this. It was just in my mind, just every waking moment, just burning. And it just burning in my head. So I could not get enough research. So we wanted to get into the building materials to create hempcrete, because in conjunction, along with it being mold resistant, the issue that the modern homes nowadays, people kind of developing like sick house syndrome, where you'll hear stories where people are like, hey, we realized our dream, we moved into our brand new house, we finally built our dream house, and then shortly after people move in these houses, people start developing autoimmune disorders, and they'll start getting really sick. Like, hey, you developed lupus or something. We have no idea what's going on or why. And that point, it really started to click for me that these two were kind of intertwined. This is a two bird, one stone kind of scenario. But the problem is that there was a massive bottleneck in the industry where all these things wanted to be done, but nobody was processing. So, in order to fulfill Dream A, or Dream B, I guess I gotta do step one. And since nobody was attacking processing, or people are attacking it, but I had found that this seemed to be the direction that you needed to be going to relieve that bottleneck in the industry with hemp fiber, and to be able to process it and to be able to introduce this material to the market at the best price that I possibly could, because I'm not a greedy person, and I don't. I've always had a very loose grip on the money in my hand, or if somebody needs it, I really have no problem giving that money out to people that need it. I mean, it's kind of bothered my wife a couple times. She made her a little nervous at times. But we encountered Jeremy Luciano over at GHS Industries, and he had a line on his tech coming out of Europe, where, you know, a 10-ton per hour fiber processing facility that's absolutely just monstrous, well engineered, highly automated, able to really go at an economy of scale with this material and pump out this material at a cheap enough price where people can really start innovating with this. And it just, everything just seemed to be falling into place, and that's the direction that we've gone with it. Wow. And so that's where I'm at today. We've partnered with, like I said, GHS Industries, and we've hired a group out of Cleveland called Quantum CFO, Quantum Financial, and they are helping us with the money raise, the private placement memorandum. You know, we showed up and we gave them our 5-year pro forma and basically our pitch deck, and they looked at us and they were they saw our numbers and they were like, you can't be serious if these are your first year numbers. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I mean, this industry doesn't exist in the United States. The things that drive these numbers down are, you know, just saturation in markets and stuff like this. But I mean, this is the green rush. I mean, this is a time capsule. This is as close to a newly discovered element in the United States as anything could be, I suppose, sort of it being the newly discovered element. With hemp becoming legal in 2018 with the Farm Bill, and just opening that door of possibilities, there's going to be a lot of expansion and growth in this area. It's absolutely insane that something like this is happening in our lifetime is truly extraordinary, I believe. And right now we are about to begin our money raise with our grant raises and all that, the whole process of raising our capital to end up getting this facility built. We are going to be establishing in Texas, headquartered in the Austin area, and we're currently shopping around to about 3 different locations right now about where we're going to put the first facility. It's chugging away. It's chugging away, man. It's absolutely mind-boggling, the things that are happening right now, just in the speed in which they are. It's very humbling and it's very exciting to actually just watch this whole process begin to play out, and the possibilities in the future that we're absolutely chasing. Is just we're very excited about. We're having a whole lot of fun with it over here. That's for sure.
Well, so when did you sell your house?
Let's see, 2016. I believe it was in 2016. Yeah, that's when we sold our house. That's when the death of our son happened. And immediately, probably a couple months after that, we discovered it. So I believe it was in 2016 that we sold the house.
Is the reason that you sold all your possessions because they possibly had the mold on them, or was it just complete reset?
It was the possibility that mold could be on them. The mold had actually saturated in so bad that the doctor that we were going to basically said, like, hey, look, at this point, a clean reset is probably one of the best things that you could do to help heal. And you know, we realize that something like this is an absolutely drastic nuclear option. Mm-hmm. But you know, financially, coming back from security contracting overseas, doing some smart investing, I was actually able to save up enough money to where this is something that we could actually do. Lord had definitely blessed us financially enough in order to be able to, he provided for us. He's provided for us the entire way. So that was just something that we had to do for her health. Yeah.
And I just have to say, you have my condolences. Prospect of losing a child, just, it breaks my heart, man.
Unfortunately, it happened. But these things do happen, and they have to happen to someone. And in a situation like this, I really think that this was something a hardship placed on us or allowed on us by my God. And in order to get a series of events moving in a certain direction, which, I am where I am right now, starting this company right now because of what happened. And I honestly believe that what we're doing has the potential of saving the health and lives of others. This is just the way that it turned out.
You talk about, was it sick house syndrome that you talked about?
Yeah, this is something that's really starting to kind of really come into the medical field a bit, that people are paying more attention to, along with things like, gut health and things like this that are being solved, which is another issue that's potentially being solved by other hemp products, food materials and all that to help bolster immune health in that way. But there's a lot of issues that we are finding, and it's been the same thing way throughout human history. It's like, as humans try something, there are drawbacks to it. Asbestos, wonderful material. But it does this, and then the building materials that we can do. It's like, hey, we can build an amazing house. It can be incredibly, heat efficient and all that. But there are the drawbacks of the chemicals in it, leaching, various other chemicals into your living environment. And we are just now discovering that, some of those may be harmful. There's everything down to even plastics. Plastics have been an absolute boon, but they're absolutely, crushing the environment. The fact that they're not biodegradable, there's stacking up in the oceans, and there's a whole lot of problems with that. And we're also finding that there is an upcoming possibility of, I think it's phthalates, being seeped into the food that we're eating due to these plastic materials, which is causing reductions in reproductive health and all that, and and hormonal issues, endocrine issues. That's another issue that we may very well be able to solve with hemp and the advent of bioplastics. I mean, it may not be hemp; it may be another material. But it's the culmination of progress as we go from one thing to another. Is that we find one thing, yes, it works. There are flaws in it, so we adjust it and do make it work. Such as things in like the energy industry. In order for us to have wind, solar, nuclear, we had to go through coal, that's the thing that had to exist in order for us to advance into that next level of clean energy. It's just progression of events.
I saw that you were previously a paramedic or EMT. Is that what you were doing, contracting overseas?
I initially, my first contracting stint in 2009. No, I got out of the military as a special operations infantryman. So I was doing security details overseas in Iraq, just as a basic personal security specialist. And then after I got out of that for 1 year, I went to college to become a paramedic, because it just seemed like a job stateside that was exciting, that I could do. I can't do a desk job. I can't do it. So my wife's family is very heavily medical. They have ER doctors. They have ER nurses. My wife ended up going on to be an ER nurse, and it was just seemed like a good fit for me. It was a good, exciting job. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years as a paramedic and a firefighter. And then an opportunity came up for me to go back overseas, this time as a medic capacity, from 13 to 2015 in Kabul, Afghanistan as a security medic, and then 15 to 17 in Israel. And Israel is actually where I met my CEO, Kyle Funmacher.
Oh, okay. Okay. Has your wife been able to go back to work?
She has not. Well, able. She's far enough in her healing process that we believe that she probably could if she had wanted to. But we do have 2 children now, so we have E.L.I, who was after E.L.I, and Jack. They're 3 and 1.5 years old now.
Oh,
And so, with what I'm doing, and I'm able to keep the lights on. So, and we just, as great as Candice was a nurse, she's an even better mom. So
yeah.
she just decided, we decided collectively that this is something that she wanted to do, is just stay at home and pour everything that she was into the kids. And I'm definitely okay with that, because I mean, your children kind of learn who they are based on who is teaching them.
Mhm.
So if I could pick anybody in my life for my children to emulate and behave as, it would be my wife. So it works that way. So
That's really sweet, man. And I have my boys are the same ages, just about. So
congratulations, man. Congratulations.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 2. I have Desmond, who's 3, and Caden, who's almost 9 months now. So yeah, just starting. He's still immobile. So once he starts scooting, then it's a whole new game, because we just have to chase one at this point.
Get ready for it, man. Oh man, keeping up with one was especially both of mine started walking at 6 and 8 months. So
Oh, wow.
we were not ready. We were not ready. And then just keeping up with both of them, like right now, Jack is into absolutely everything. His main focus in life is to find what in the house can be turned upside down and poured out and made a mess out of.
Yeah. No, I'm right there. That inquisitive stage where it's, what's this? What's this?
Yeah.
I'll tell you in one moment. Just give me a minute. So I'd like to learn more about E.L.I, or the business. It was interesting. When I talk to people in hemp and I talk to people in cannabis, a lot of people have, first of all, a medical background or an engineering background, really, which is interesting. And I'm also interested in, so you're still working on setting up your first facility, right?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
shopping around for the location of what's going to be our first facility, simultaneously while doing the money raise for it. And then once the money raise is completed, we can actually order the machinery. And with there's kind of like a whole lot of simultaneous moving parts that are going to happen. We got to find the facility. We got to figure out if we're going to design. It depends on kind of what events kind of transpire. Do we find the facility and design our equipment to fit inside the facility, or do we design the most optimal line and then build the facility around that optimal line? There's a bit of factoring in on, but just based on what we find, so how that goes.
So are you only going to process material that could be used in other products?
For right now, me personally, my personal drive is to get into, my 2 things that I'm most on fire about are building materials and bioplastics. Those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 applications of hemp fiber that I'm most on fire about. But for right now, in order to accomplish that, we need to get the processing infrastructure up and going. Like that's the next step. Somebody's got to be able to step into that gap in the supply chain and take that risk of setting up the processing facility in order to have the farmers grow something and make it into a product that people in the market actually want to work with, because people want to make things out of hemp. They do. And farmers want to grow it.
Yeah.
But the big bottleneck right now is the processors.
So is that why you chose Texas? Is there a lot of hemp growing going on in that area?
There seems to be a lot of stars aligning on that as well. Texas is Uh, First off, it's very business friendly. There's a lot of incentives to start your business up in Texas, and also one of the things that I'm seeing is that either things by engineering or just happenstance to where things just kind of worked out in the whole process. It seems like the environment for things like building materials like hempcrete in Austin, in Austin, well, not just Austin area, but all of Texas, is kind of an amazing launch pad for the hemp fiber industry. Um, you have the clientele going into the Austin area, and the talent that's kind of focusing in that area, like in Texas Tech and the Lubbock and Amarillo area, number one, fiber research facility in the United States, maybe the country, maybe the world. I'm not sure if it's the world or not. And then you have Texas A&M with Dr. Calvin Trossel doing the work that they're doing with trying to get, what hemp crops are going to be working in Texas figured out. I mean, that's agricultural industry is what Texas A&M does, and they're very good at it, and they're working very hard right now to try to figure out what that is. The housing boom in the Austin area and the Texas area in general, and people wanting more sustainable houses, and people wanting, material, like people are caring about what they're putting in their houses and what people are putting in their body. The materials that they're, BPH free, plastics and all that, people care about this stuff now. And being able to supply a material to a clientele area like that, it just seems like the absolute best move. It just everything's being provided. I guess it's just like I think Thomas, my co-founder, kind of gets a little irritated at me sometimes because the word providence just keeps coming up over and over and over again.
Well, I mean, I was just curious where all the raw material comes from, because I mean, if you're talking about processing, was it 10 tons per hour?
Yeah, that's the max per hour it's able to do. So that's 44,000 to about 88,000 tons of material per year. Or we're going to start out trying to just hit a 50%, 50% benchmark that first year. So, that way the business doesn't hinge and fail completely on us trying to get this facility going at full capacity.
Okay.
So we feel that 50% is a target that we can definitely hit. With farmers, we tell them, it's like, hey, we're not after this being your main crop. We're not, your rotational crop. Farmers tend to not like their corn and their soy, the water hungry and all that, and they're not as profitable as they like them to be. And we can come into this and say, hey, look, we have a crop that we can bring in for your rotational crop that is not as water hungry, less pesticides, less inputs and all that, and at the same time as profitable, or if not more profitable than the rotational crops that you're already doing. And another reason for Texas is we find that hemp fiber loves the same type of soil that cotton loves. So number one cotton producer in the United States is Texas. Number two being Georgia. Texas, I think 5.6 million acres of cotton, and Georgia at about 1.4, I believe. Now I live in Georgia right now, but the legislation and the environment, it just is not as fertile as Texas is for hemp. Here, I'm guessing probably about 3 to 5, maybe more years, Georgia will be more receptive to the crop and be more, economically viable for the farmer to grow, and less legislative hurdles in the way. And when that happens, hopefully we'll be in a position to be able to open up a facility in Georgia as well. And if not, hopefully somebody else will. But definitely in Texas, it seems like the right crop, right time, right place. Everything's, like I said, the stars are aligning there just for us. So.
Is it difficult living in Georgia and trying to start a new business in Texas?
Well, yes and no. It got a little difficult until my CEO, Kyle Huttenlocker, he actually lives in Austin. So whenever I'm saying everything's provided, everything's being provided. It's absolutely crazy. I had the number one person on my list that I wanted involved in this was Kyle Huntenmacher, and I had no idea where he was. I had no idea what he was doing. I called him up and said, "Hey, look, man, I'm thinking about getting this business up and going. We're looking at Texas. Um, I want to run what I'm doing past you. Tell me what you think." You know, because he was a contractor with me. He was actually my supervisor, and he was going to get his MBA at Cornell. So I remembered that. So I didn't really know what happened to him after that. I just knew, you know, he was going to make it. You know, he was going to get it. So, I mean, this guy's an absolute hard charger. He's MVP right now for sure. So I called him up. It's like, "Hey, man, where are you at? What you doing?" It's like, "I'm in Austin, Texas, and I am doing a cryptocurrency startup right now." Then, you know, I talked to him. I showed him what I was doing. He got immediately excited about it, and you know, and since then he's, you know, transitioned, you know, over into a, you know, full-time position as my CEO of E.L.I, and things are just rolling. People that I have tapped in mind to be my facility managers. You know, one of my guys is like, "Hey, I'm in San Antonio. I'm ready to go. You need me."
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know, and even my even my wife's mold doctor up in Atlanta. You know, she has to drive about 2.5 hours to go to her mold doctor up in Atlanta, and she was really sad because this was the doctor that discovered everything that was wrong with her. And she was sad because, like, "Hey, look, you know, I don't know if this is, you know, if I'm going to find another doctor like her in Austin." But, you know, with this whole COVID thing, we began to realize, like, "Hey, you know, we can telemedicine." So she went up to Atlanta to talk to her during her appointment. And she was just like, "Hey, look, you know, we're going to Austin. I was wondering if it's possible for me to have, you know, my labs pulled in Austin, the results sent to you. We telemedicine, you know, over Zoom calls, and anything that I need, you know, you just send to me remotely or prescribe remotely to me if that was possible." She's like, "Well, we could do that, but we're also going to Austin."
Yeah, it is all aligning, man.
Yeah. She's her doctor is actually setting up a clinic in the Austin area. So it's bizarre.
So, so right now, is it just yourself, Kyle, and Thomas?
Myself, Kyle, Thomas, and the individuals over at Quantum CFO.
Okay.
You know, they're working with us, and I think they're going to have more than likely they'll have involvement in our company as we go forward.
Okay. So, it sounds like financing is sort of the next domino to fall.
Yeah, and that's currently in progress right now. That's looking extremely promising. We really don't have. There's not really a whole lot that's doesn't seem insurmountable at the time at right now. So
Okay.
it's looking extremely promising.
Okay. So, once financing comes through, you said that you're looking to either retrofit a building or kind of build your own.
Yeah.
Is it going to be just one big line where is that how this the fiber processing equipment that you were talking about from Jeremy works, where it's just end to end, material goes in this end, finished product comes out the other?
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is the
we're wanting to set up this entire line as absolutely efficiently as possible. Um, I mean, it's the main driver of what the business is the processing line. So we really should be putting the utmost efficiency and utmost consideration in how that machinery is set up. I mean, it's like the H-10 Warthog that jet that aircraft was built around the gun. So
Yeah. So what is the raw material the whole plant, or is something harvested from the plant before you would process it?
say that again.
Like what is your raw material, your raw product?
The raw material is basically hemp fiber grown specifically for fiber strains
Okay.
by the farmer, baled up, preferably square bales, and sent to us. And then we process that material down into long fibers, long technical fiber, short technical fiber, herd material, and then dust. All throughout this is a 100% mechanical, no chemical inputs at all. Zero waste. 100% of that plant that goes into our machine comes out the other end as a marketable product, sent from station to station throughout the multiple decortication and cleaning process under vacuum. So that dust, even the dust in particular, is actually pulled and collected at the end that we can actually turn into biofuels, animal bedding, simple markets like that. There's actually a report that I saw, something on LinkedIn the other day, where actually somebody's making hemp dust material into an additive that goes into like an eco leather,
Oh, really?
not a non-animal product leather, that I thought was actually really cool.
That is
So,
cool.
but because it's under suction and there's a multiple cleaning process, our long technical fibers and short technical fibers come out the other end with less than 3%, herd material attached to it, which is, industry standard in a lot of ways.
So what do your clients look like? Who would you be selling the material to?
Man, at this point, when you're getting the industry up and going, everybody,
Okay.
anyone, everybody and anyone. If you're wanting to sell a product into animal bedding, if you're wanting to sell it into textiles, if you're wanting to put it into building materials, like hempcrete and stuff like that, you want to take the long technical fibers and put it into hemp bat insulation, putting it into bioplastics, or if you're putting it into paper products, just any and all of that. I mean, I have a specific preference of wanting to put it towards building materials, but honestly, at this point, when you're getting a business up and going from an entire industry
Yeah.
up and going from the very beginning, you'll sell to whoever wants the material at that point, and then build more facilities, build up your ability to produce more,
hmm
and just advance in an economy of scale into every industry that you can.
Is is the demand out there right now, or do you see that as something that's currently building as well? And will that take in it either way? Will it take further education for people to understand how to use your end product?
Yeah, absolutely, on all accounts.
Yeah.
On all that. Does the demand currently exist? Yes. You have people that are selling products. People are making hemp clothing, hemp shoes. I bought me a pair of hemp shoes the other day. So,
Okay.
um, and I think it's all the material that is coming into the United States for it to be able to make hemp products out of is coming from Canada, is coming from Europe, is coming from China. So in order to make these products, we're importing this material across oceans and across an entire another country to get it here and to make products out of it. We
hmm
can do that here. There's so many things that are aligning even on this. It's absolutely amazing. And uh, uh, people that are wanting to build, hempcrete homes. Yes, absolutely. If you could have your house built from a material that was, farmed, by a local farmer within 250-mile radius of you, and processed within that same radius, and sent to you, that you could pour cast and hempcrete blocks.
hmm
That's people absolutely do want that. People want to be able to feed their money and their economies back into their local economies. They want to support their local farmers. They want to support their local business owners.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they have eat locally, but it's like this is live locally.
Yeah. And things like Texas. Texas was doing this with, I think it ended up being a little bit more costly to the people of Texas, but I think there was this demand for a never frozen meat or never frozen beef in the central Texas area. It's I heard about this a couple days ago, so all my details may not be 100% accurate on it, but this was a massive drive by the community where they wanted a product like this that was, that they wanted the never frozen, unaltered, meat products for themselves, but able at the same time to be able to support their local businesses.
hmm
So I think things like that. It's another reason why we're setting up in Texas. Plus, my dad was born in Texas, so it feels like I'm kind of going back to my ancestral home. So.
Yeah. Are you so after processing gets underway, do you want to get into product development like manufacturing hempcrete and bioplastics?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. There's whether that was the goal. Like, I would love to be able to have a business that builds mold-free, fireproof, pest-resistant, you know, incredibly healthy homes for people. That seems like where I would be most proud to see the name Eli on.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
that like that would that I believe firmly that that day would bring me to tears. It really would.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
I am more than happy if it turns out that way. It turns out that way. It does. That's the goal. I'm aiming towards it. I'm advancing that towards that. But if not, if somebody comes along and does it better for me, but does it excuse me, does it better than me at a cheaper price, you know, I don't have so much pride that I can't step to the side and, you know, let that person work. You know, we can partner with them. We can send material their way so that they can do it. So,
I find it really inspiring because we hear a lot of people talk about wanting to be, driven by their morals and their ethics and run their business that way. But a lot of times that's not the case either because they're driven more by profit or by a board or something like that. So it's just, it's a credit to you that that's what's driving your business.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, so I guess so what's next for you and Eli? It sounds like you guys are just you're still running right now.
Yeah. We're just we're piecing together the advisory board now. Well, we're getting together with a marketing team to start things going on that end. Get our website up and going. Start establishing the supply lines as best we can. You know, let's start. Let's see. We pack the truck up to. We load this house up on a truck on May 2nd. Moving into my new house in the Austin area on the 4th. And then I begin talking to my farmers, shaking hands with people, really, you know, burning the trail, trying to figure out who wants to buy this material. So that's the big issue with I think a lot of people right now is that whole chicken and the egg situation. What's going on? Where it's like, hey, we want to make stuff out of hemp. We want to make these houses, or we want to make these clothes out of hemp, or we want to make these um,
Plastics.
papers and plastic
Oh.
materials out of it. But nobody's processing it. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm processing it now. So it's like, well, do you have any as a sample that we can see? And I can understand that one. So it's like, so that's, we're jumping off the cliff and we're building the plane as we're falling.
Yeah.
So it's scary, it's terrifying. But I think that with the team that I got going, right now, this is something that we're actually going to be able to slam dunk this. I really do. I mean, there's risk in this. It's scary, it's terrifying, but we can do this. I know we can do this.
Have your wife's symptoms subsided ever since moving out of the environment?
Yeah, yeah. Clean diet. She was on a absurdly clean diet for the longest time, and she actually still partially is. With no sugar, no dairy, organic, um, um, no gluten, no man. I couldn't survive on that diet. I was sneaking food left and right,
Yeah.
but
No,
but
I get that.
with that and having the big one was removing her from the moldy environment. There was a lot of positive gains for her health after that. Once we started going over to a really mega clean diet, things really started improving a whole lot more, along with some of the treatments that she was getting from her doctor. Um, um, she is definitely a lot better now than she was, 5, 6 years ago. Drastically different.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I mean, she still has issues that she's working through that will actually probably continue to be long term. But I think eventually, we'll get to the point where it's. I think we'll come out the other side of it. I think we will. Don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll get there.
Well, I hearing that you're working on your website, that makes a little more sense now because I went to it and it just says big changes are coming and Eli is bringing them. And I'm like, good.
Man, I hope so. Man, I hope so. Changes are coming regardless if it's us or not. I would like for it to be us, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's certain trends that you can't beat. Like this is coming. I'm not as somebody that's so arrogant to say that the only way that this is going to happen is it's us.
Yeah.
Like, we want to do our part. We want to help. We want to do our thing. Everything's going clean. Everything's going clean.
Mhm.
It's just the way that the market and whatever you want to call it, capitalism is working out. And human innovation. We're always improving, always progressing. It's just worth going. So it's good. It's a very good direction. It's the direction that we need to go.
Well, like I said previously, it's very inspiring, and it's always good to talk to somebody where you 100% believe in what they're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things that I'm finding is so amazing about this is everybody that I'm talking to, it like 99% of them they're true believers. Everybody that's in this hemp space, whether they're talking about processing or even CBD or fibers and textiles and all that. It's like most everybody you're talking to is legitimately somebody who cares about what's happening in the world and just wants to do something to fix it and help.
Mhm.
If they can make a living off of it, that's great. But regardless if they make a living off of it or not, it's something that still needs to be done. So it's just the general kind of consensus of everybody I'm talking to. It's an absolute pleasure to see this kind of environment. There's a lot like that. It was a lot of that in the military, where everybody was just mission focused and mission driven. It was a big issue getting out of the military. Not everybody was mission focused and oriented, and just everybody was just kind of bumping into everybody else's lane. And I can understand why a lot of people wanted to get out of the military. They're very confused about which directions to go and how to operate in civilian society. Like the rules are completely changed,
Mhm.
and it seems like a little bit of that exists in the hemp space, where it's so mission focused. It's such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Is there any opportunity in processing cannabis industry byproducts, or is it just doesn't, or does it not have the scale?
We talk about like on the medicinal side.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I'll actually openly state my ignorance on this. I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about the medicinal side. I don't.
Okay.
I've never partaken. I've never even smoked a cigarette. So it's
Yeah.
just something that's just, hey, if that's something that people want to do, great. More power to them. If it has
Yeah.
benefits, you do it. I know that as my time as a paramedic, I didn't get called to a whole lot of problems where weed was involved.
Yeah.
It was usually alcohol.
Yeah.
Um, but that's somebody else's lane. I stay in my lane. I found hemp fiber, all the uses for it. I see purpose. I see meaning in that, and that's what I pursue. And if somebody else wants to chase after medicinal cannabis or recreational, more power to them. Go after it, man. Do your thing.
Man, that's just a great outlook.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today, man. I really do appreciate it.
Oh man, this was actually my first ever interview on anything, on any medium. So
Man,
thank
well,
you very much for taking it easy on me, man.
Oh no, it was my pleasure. You really crushed it.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.